Nobody told you this, but your gas bill was essentially decided in a 21-mile stretch of water on the other side of the planet. And the decision was made not by OPEC, not by oil companies, but by a government that had absolutely no legal right to make it. Right now, 3 tankers are running for their lives through a route Iran does not officially control, and what happens to them in the next 48 hours determines what you pay at the pump next month. I am going to show you the connection between those 3 ships and your household budget in plain English, no financial jargon, no spin. And at the 2:30 mark, I will show you the one move Iran made this week that should have been front-page news in every American newspaper. Here is where we start 3 specific tankers. The Dilute, the Zahor, LNG, and the Habut are attempting something that has never been done before. Instead of going through Iran's new toll booth at Larak and Qishim Islands, they are hugging the Omani coastline heading south, bypassing Iran entirely. The Dilute is a crude oil tanker, fully loaded, running at 11 knots through waters Iran does not control, and Iran is watching every move. If those ships make it through safely, it proves there is an escape hatch from Iran's chokehold that the commercial fleet can actually use. If Iran attacks them in Omani waters, we enter a new phase of this crisis that hits your gas station within days, not weeks, not months, days. Either way, the answer tells us more about the real state of this crisis than anything you will hear from any press conference anywhere. But to understand why those 3 ships are running, you need to understand what Iran built in the 7 days before they made their move. Because what Iran did this week was not a military escalation, it was a legal and administrative takeover dressed up as a safety measure. And that distinction matters enormously for your wallet because administrative takeovers are a whole lot harder to undo than military ones. Here's the context in March 2026. Average daily ship traffic through the Strait of Hormuz fell from 129 vessels down to 6. 6 ships per day through a waterway that normally carries 20% of the world's daily oil supply, a 95% collapse in 1 month. Gas nationally is at $3.99, up 82 cents from last year. California is already at $7.22, and the real price shock has not arrived yet. Diesel is at $5.40, and diesel moves every truck, every delivery, every piece of food from the farm to your grocery store shelf. Now, here is what I promised you at the 2:30 mark, the one move that changed everything and that almost no American outlet covered seriously. Iran published an official new traffic separation scheme for the Strait of Hormuz, a shipping lane management system without asking anyone. These schemes are created by the International Maritime Organization after years of negotiation involving dozens of countries. It is not a one-nation decision. Iran just published their own version, unilaterally, for a waterway they do not fully own and communicated it to every ship in the region. This is the first time in modern maritime history a nation has done this, and the IMO confirmed it is illegal under international maritime law. But here is the problem. The IMO does not have a navy, and a strongly worded letter does not physically move ships through a waterway. The old shipping lanes ran through Omani waters where Iran had no legal authority over any vessel transiting through the corridor at all. Iran's new lanes run through Iranian territorial waters where they have full legal jurisdiction over every ship, cargo, and transit every single day. In 1 week, without firing a shot, Iran moved the legal jurisdiction of the world's most critical oil corridor from Omani to Iranian control. And the mechanism they use to justify that move the mines may not even physically exist, which is the part of this story that blows your mind. The Joint Maritime Information Center, multiple navies monitoring the strait around the clock, has not confirmed a single physical mine was actually laid. The U.S. has had drones and aerial surveillance covering that waterway continuously throughout this crisis, and they have not found one mine in the water. Iran may have created the full operational effect of a minefield ship stopped, insurance tripled, routing changed using only a press statement. That is either the most cost-effective strategic operation in naval warfare history or the most expensive bluff in energy market history, possibly both. They packaged the mine announcement with a ready-made solution, their new safe route through Iranian waters delivered in the same briefing simultaneously. A crisis and a solution packaged together is not how you announce a defensive emergency. That is how you launch a pre-planned operation on schedule. Now let me give you the human dimension, because there are real Americans caught in the middle of this that nobody in Washington is discussing. Approximately 20,000 merchant sailors are still anchored inside the Persian Gulf right now on roughly 1,000 ships with no confirmed release date. A mariner who got off one of the American ships stuck in port reported almost zero communication with the U.S. military during the entire ordeal. When they tried to reach the Navy, they had to use open, unsecured radio channels because merchant ships do not have secure military communication. The military normally sends strategic SEAL lift officers with secure satellite packs aboard commercial ships in exactly these kinds of situations. That was never done when the Navy pulled back. Those civilian crews were essentially left to work it out on their own with no backup. And U.S. Merchant Marine Academy cadets were left aboard those ship students, not soldiers, with no defensive training for this situation at all. The Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point has a battle standard. 142 cadets were killed in World War II serving on merchant vessels. They have served under fire in the Persian Gulf War, Iraq, and the Red Sea, and in 2026 they were left in a blockaded Gulf without military support. They were eventually evacuated, but the fact that they were left there without communication support is a serious institutional failure. Plain and simple. Now let me give you the historical context, because this situation should feel very familiar, and it is not an accident that it does. 200 years ago, the United States paid protection money to Barbary pirate states off North Africa for 15 straight years. Thomas Jefferson concluded that paying was actually more expensive than ending it because tribute demands always escalate without exception over time. He sent the Navy across the Atlantic and established the principle millions for defense. Not 1 cent for tribute to anyone, ever. Iran today calls the Bitcoin toll a security coordination fee, which is the 21st century version of the exact same diplomatic framing the Barbary states used. Different technology, different century. Identical structure, and the historical record is brutally clear about what happens when you pay versus when you do not. Now let me walk you through all 5 of Iran's strategic moves. Each one connects directly to a specific cost you will carry going forward. Move 1, the VHF Channel 16. Broadcast Iran declared on the International Maritime Emergency Frequency that ships without permission would be destroyed. Channel 16 is the maritime version of 911. Every vessel monitors it continuously, and a captain has about 60 seconds to respond to what he hears. No UN note, no diplomatic channel, no IMO notification, a live broadcast on the Global Emergency Channel demanding immediate operational compliance. Move 2, the mine announcement creates permanent behavioral compliance through a threat that U.S. surveillance cannot confirm is physically real. Ships stopped. Insurance tripled. Captains refused movement without clearance certificates from a press statement backed by 0 confirmed mines. Move 3, the new official traffic map routing all global shipping into Iranian territorial waters permanently. Every ship subject to Iranian jurisdiction. EOS Risk Group confirmed it in Lloyd's List, a fundamental and permanent reshaping of how Hormuz transits work from this point forward. Move 4, the Omani Waters Hazard Zone Iran, declared a mine zone in Omani sovereign territory while Oman is actively mediating their ceasefire. Move 5, the 17-year tanker order boom. BIMCO reports the highest crude tanker contracting quarter in recorded history happening during the blockade. The shipyards cashing in are in South Korea, China, and Japan, not American workers or companies sharing the cost burden with American consumers. Those tankers will not be delivered for 3 to 5 years. The supply shortage is already baked into your energy costs well into 2029 and 2030. The UNCTAD report says global trade growth slows from 4.7% to between 1.5% and 2.5%, a COVID-level contraction in global trade activity. Bunker fuel has doubled and tripled, raising the cost of shipping every product crossing every ocean, and that cost lands on American store shelves. The UNCTAD report explicitly uses the phrase potential financial crisis on the scale of 2008 from an international economic body, not a cable news pundit. Fertilizer stuck behind Hormuz means higher food prices at American grocery stores this fall. That connection is already locked in at this point. Helium shortages affect hospital MRI machines, and semiconductor manufacturing. The Hormuz blockade reaches into your healthcare and your tech costs, too. The administration released the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, waived the Jones Act, and desanctioned fuel, real moves, but Band-Aids on a surgery-level wound. When 10 to 12 million barrels per day disappears from global supply, every barrel of Texas crude gets more expensive because it is one global market. America produces more oil than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined, and yet you are still paying 82 cents more per gallon than last year. That is how global pricing works. The U.S. military has ISR drones watching everything in the Strait. Intelligence. Surveillance, reconnaissance, they observe and report. They do not enforce. The plan to open Hormuz exists inside military planning documents. It reportedly exists and has been reviewed, but it was not the operational priority. Month 2 of a crisis that should have been resolved in weeks. And the gap between what the law says and what anyone enforces remains wide open. The Evergreen blocked the Suez Canal for 6 days in 2021. That 6-day blockage took 6 weeks to clear from the supply chain system completely. 30 days at 95% reduction at Hormuz, applying the same ratio, means roughly 30 weeks of recovery time minimum from the moment peace is declared. Mid-2027, before prices normalize in the best case, and that is the math. Not a political position, not an opinion, just arithmetic on a verified disruption. Here are the 3 signals to watch so you know the truth before any politician admits it, and you can check 2 of them yourself right now for free. Signal 1. Marine traffic daily transit count 138 ships per day is open. Under 20 means the chokehold is still fully operational regardless of announcements. Signal 2. Lloyd's war risk insurance premium when it normalizes, the risk community confirms it is actually safe, not just declared safe by a press release. Signal 3, the specific treaty language watch for in coordination with Iranian authorities in any transit clause. That phrase means the toll booth won. 50 ships per day within a week of any deal means real substance. 10 ships per day 2 weeks later means the chokehold is still running under a ceasefire label. 3 outcomes. Full settlement removes everything. Partial settlement accepts some Iranian role or sustained military escorts like Operation Earnest Will in 1987. The partial settlement is most likely diplomatically, and it is the one that looks like a win this week and reads as capitulation in the history books. Accepting any Iranian coordination role today closes off every military response option tomorrow. That is the trap nobody is naming out loud. The dilute, the Zohor LNG, and the Habit. Those 3 ships are either the proof that Iran's system has a flaw or the trigger for the next escalation. If they clear Omani waters safely, 1,000 trapped ships have a viable bypass route that bypasses the toll booth completely. If Iran attacks them in Omani sovereign waters, every nation in the world with a navy has a legal basis to respond, and this crisis changes character instantly. Your gas bill is connected to those 3 ships right now in the most direct and literal way possible, and the 48-hour answer is coming. Watch the ships, not the statements, and you will know what is actually happening well before the rest of the country pieces it together. Subscribe and hit the bell because the next video will show you the satellite tracking data on exactly what happened to those 3 tankers. Did they make it through? Did Iran let them pass? Did U.S. military assets provide cover from Omani shore bases? The satellite data will answer all 3. That data is the single most important piece of information for understanding where your energy costs in this crisis go from here. 1,000 ships are sitting in that Gulf right now, 20,000 human beings waiting for an answer that 3 tankers may have just found. These are civilian workers, engineers, cooks, able seamen, officers trapped by decisions made in rooms they were never invited into. Every ceasefire press release mentions oil market stability and geopolitical frameworks. Almost none mentions when those people actually get to go home. The mine announcement makes their situation more complicated. Now every ship needs mine clearance certification before any commercial movement can resume. They are held not by bars and locks, but by mine maps, insurance clauses, and bureaucratic permission systems that are harder to photograph than a prison cell. 40-plus days in Persian Gulf heat, diminishing provisions on a satellite connection that barely holds a video call to family back home. If the Strait is genuinely open, and this crisis is genuinely resolving, those ships should be moving right now, and they are not moving yet. The most honest measure of this entire crisis is not the oil price ticker or the ceasefire headline, it is the ship movement count on marine traffic. When those ships start moving, when that count climbs back toward 138 per day, that is when you know the crisis is actually resolving. Until then, every announcement is a press release, every ceasefire is a pause, and your gas bill reflects the operational reality on the water. Now, here is what the shipping industry needs before a single risk department authorizes a loaded tanker back through that corridor voluntarily. They need verified mine clearance actual mine sweeping operations with certified all-clear documentation, not a statement from any government. They need demonstrated transits of the traditional Omani waters route, not the new Iranian route with vessels arriving safely at destinations. They need war risk insurance rates returning toward normal, which happens only after verified clearance is consistently maintained over time. And they need the Bitcoin toll system explicitly eliminated, not vaguely addressed, not rebranded, gone completely from the operational picture. Individual captains and insurance underwriters make these calls, not governments, and they use verifiable risk data, not political aspirations. The insurance market is the most honest signal in this entire crisis. It prices actual probability, not diplomatic optimism or press conference confidence. When war risk premiums normalize, that single data point tells you more than any government announcement from any party in this conflict. Now, let me close with something that I want every American who cares about their household budget to genuinely think about. The economic disruption from what Iran built this week does not care about your political affiliation. It hits every American household at checkout. Higher freight costs mean higher grocery prices, higher fuel prices, higher prices for electronics, for appliances, for everything that crosses an ocean. And those higher costs persist into 2027 because the supply chain disruption is already embedded. Peace tomorrow does not change that math. What changes the math beyond the minimum recovery timeline is whether the ceasefire agreement actually eliminates what Iran built or legitimizes it. If the agreement legitimizes Iran's new routing authority, the toll booth becomes permanent, and every tanker that transits eventually pays a form of tribute. That tribute gets embedded in global oil prices, shipping rates, and eventually your gas bill every fill-up, for years, possibly permanently. Jefferson called this out in 1801. Paying tribute is not cheaper than ending it. It is more expensive because the demands never stop escalating. $1 per barrel today becomes $2 at the next renegotiation. Historical tribute systems have never, not once, held steady at the initial rate. At current Hormuz volumes, $1 per barrel is roughly $6 billion per year flowing to Tehran in untraceable Bitcoin annually. $6 billion per year, untraceable, sanctions-proof, deployable globally funding the exact capabilities that make Iran a threat in the first place. At the next renegotiation, if historical patterns hold, it becomes $12 billion per year, then more. Compounding in the same direction every time. Jefferson understood this in 1801 and acted on it. The question is whether the nation he founded still has the same clarity about tribute in 2026. The answer will be visible in the treaty text, in the marine traffic count, and in your gas bill 6 months from now, all three, simultaneously. That is the honest connection between that 21-mile waterway and your household budget, and now you have the full picture to read every headline accurately. Watch the three signals, not the three headlines, marine traffic, Lloyd's rates, and the exact words in the treaty text when it is published. Share this if you think your friends and family deserve the same straight explanation without the spin and without the political framing on either side. Subscribe and hit the bell. The satellite data on those 3 breakout tankers is coming. And it will answer the question this video opened with. Did they make it? Did Iran let them pass? Did the Omani bypass route prove viable for the 1,000 ships still trapped inside the Gulf? The ships are the honest signal, and right now 3 of them are writing the next chapter of this story in real time.